I usually cut off like adding news on Sundays, but this is going to be a big one that we definitely have to add.
Yeah, if not, we have to put like 5 podcasts on Thursday.
Yeah.
You'll be like, "Hi, welcome to part 22 of our 24-hour podcast."
Episode 22, part C of our podcast today.
We'll try and beat the world record for the longest podcast, which is 48 hours. We're going to hit 49 straight hours.
We are going to hit 96 hours. That means 5 days straight of information. We will keep up. We have sources such as Adrian Wojnarowski or Wojnarowski in NBA, who's giving us all the trade news.
It's like we'll be on Twitter like anything new. Nothing yet. Oh, he had cereal this morning.
You are watching a master at work.
Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to our podcast, The Gameplan. Kris, what has happened over this weekend, and what news have, gone under the radar?
Well, not much news I could tell you that got on the radar, but we got some big news coming from a lot of the leagues. First up in the MLB, we have our first female GM, Kim. I do not know how to pronounce that last name. NG is what the spelling is. Mike, if you know how to say that, please save me.
What is the spelling?
NG.
Usually pronounced ing.
Thank you. So she is now the GM over for the Miami Marlins. She used to be the vice president of baseball operations over with the Yankees for the past 10 years. Past 15 years, my mistake. So she's over there. Some news in basketball, which we'll talk about a little bit later. We have this is the NBA draft week, but also we have free agency starting up. Trades are beginning to happen. We got a massive trade, which we will bring up later. We also saw a couple of players opt out of their contracts. Most notably, Anthony Davis opted out of his player option. Some football news. We saw a few games. We saw probably the biggest upset is the Patriots winning in Foxborough against the Ravens. And then the Steelers are still perfect, 9-0 right now.
Good for the Steelers. Like you said, we have some big NBA news. Free agency has just started. The draft is this Wednesday, but I think the most interesting is Anthony Davis actually opting out of his player contract. Quick, before we go on to NCAA news, do you think he wants that max deal from the Lakers, and will he get it?
Yeah, this is what he wanted since the beginning, and that was probably the plan was from the beginning with the Lakers was for him to play that 1 year opt out. And sign a max contract with them. This was discussed way back when, like before he even got traded. Speculation was when he was getting traded, was that he was going to opt out and look for a max contract.
Yeah, good on Anthony Davis's part for looking out for himself. Let's move into some NCAA news. Big games this weekend. A lot of close games, but a lot of blowouts as well. Some of the notable games that we looked at are Indiana State versus Michigan State, which we mentioned last podcast, as well as Miami versus Virginia Tech, Colorado versus Stanford, a close comeback, but no cigar for the Cardinal. USC versus Arizona, another comeback from USC in their second week back playing football this year. Texas Tech versus Baylor, another close game, 24-23. And lastly, Wisconsin versus Michigan, a big blowout for Wisconsin Badgers as they blow out the Wolverines. Kris, which of these games is the most surprising, and which of these are not as surprising as we thought it would be?
Wisconsin versus Michigan. In the last part, I discussed that Michigan was going to probably play a lot better because of Wisconsin being out with COVID the past 2 weeks. But the Badgers proved me wrong with their big win against the division or conference rivals, Michigan. Then the Miami Virginia Tech game was a really great game. Like Virginia Tech was favored in that game, but it came down to the wild last play right there for those two schools. I forgot to mention there's some breaking news right now. Drew Brees, quarterback of the Saints, did not finish the game last night. He is actually now dealing with rib fractures on both sides, with the addition of a collapsed lung right now. So he's looking to be out for a while.
Sheesh. No wonder he didn't finish when I saw that news.
Yeah.
Same to your point, Miami Virginia Tech game, great game as well. But Miami pulling out the victory by 1 point, 25-24. I think one of the most surprising ones was Colorado versus Stanford. As we both know, Colorado not been performing up to par as they have in the past decade, but close comeback. They were down, I think, 3 touchdowns by the third quarter, and they started to ramp it back up. Close to a 35-32 loss, but hopefully next week against Washington State, they pick it back up.
Yeah. Little fact: Stanford before last Saturday was 8-0 in home openers up to that point.
That's kind of a sad statistic to see go by. Now they're 8-1, unfortunately. Lastly, the Wisconsin versus Michigan game. I had no doubts in it. Kris and I both thought separately that Kris thought Michigan was going to win. I thought Wisconsin was going to win, regardless if they had to skip 2 weeks due to COVID. Mostly because I know Wisconsin as a great football program, and Michigan has kind of been dropping the ball the past couple of years. So, not very surprising, but just to see the deficit and how large it is, surprising at that end. So, in our next news, we have CBS has reported that the dead period for recruiting has been extended to April 15th. I'm going to be sharing my screen with everyone so that we see. Keeping coaches away from recruits for over a year. NCAA Oversight Committee has recommended that football recruiting dead period be extended 3.5 months to April 15th. Several sources tell CBS News. What do you think the reasoning for this is? Is it because of COVID? They don't want coaches going near families right now, or do they just want like time for the league to heal after the decisions that they've made for this past fall?
Probably the latter right there. We did see a lot of pushback of the seasons, most notably the Pac-12 not starting until November. So there was a big gap in the season. We also do see that a lot of high schools are not playing this year or pushing it to the spring of the football program. So that could also be a reason for this.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I see a lot of high schools, especially within the state of Hawaii, not playing football this fall and may not play football for another year. Um, let's just jump into the future, into the theoretical part.
Yeah.
A lot of seniors and juniors are leaving and or opting out, going to the league or going to the draft for 2021 for the NFL draft. Um, Name one school that you think is going to benefit from this recruiting process being extended, and one that is going to fall a deficit short.
That's a tough question. Like I know it's theoretical, but um, I don't know. I don't feel like there's gonna be much change in recruitment. So I think the best schools are going to recruit well, and they're just going to keep normal. Recruiting is pretty much the same. Um, if I was Nick Saban at Alabama, you see this pushback, but you know that you have a really great program. You know you can coach players well, and most of the top rated high school athletes would love to go there.
Yeah, I agree. Ironically, you brought up Alabama. I was going to bring up Alabama as well. I think this gives Coach Saban a time to think clearly on who he actually wants to recruit before making those decisions to offer up different scholarships or different positions for.
Yeah, just going to probably help get more scouting on these young athletes, but I don't see much of a change between higher schools that recruit well and schools that don't really recruit well. It's just going to be, I feel like, relatively the same.
Interesting, interesting. But speaking of Alabama, as well as their conference rival LSU, two, I'm assuming, current players, both wide receivers in the respect to each of the university that they go to, Koy Moore and Traeshon Holden, were held at gunpoint by police. Um, you didn't have any time to read up on an article, did you?
I did not read this article that you have up on our screen.
Mhm.
But I did read an article of LSU's wide receiver Koy Moore last week
Mhm.
from a different source.
Mhm.
Um, but what I took from the article is that police were I don't know how. Can't remember exactly how they said it, but the reports that they were held at gunpoint and they were checking the wide receiver or the person for any type of drugs, fixing him a little bit too much as what the receiver said, um, and was not let go until he mentioned that he was a wide receiver for the university.
So he was let go after he mentioned his credential.
That's what he said to reporters.
It's kind of interesting to see that, they're just police are just doing their job up to the description, and then once they hear who they are, they kind of just block that out. It's like, oh, sorry, my bad. It's like, what kind of information have you received to not blatantly, but more so assume that this is your guy until you hear something and it's like, oh, never mind. Like, do you think that these police that held up LSU wide receiver Koy Moore like thought of that before actually like searching him? Like, did you think like they desire to have a conversation you know, instead of that? Sorry, I can't word that like perfectly.
Yeah, I kind of understand what you're talking about. It is weird because you do see when a well-known celebrity or athlete says like, "Hey, I'm blah blah of blah blah," the police kind of just like, "Oh, sorry, move on with your day."
Hmm.
Um, it is a little weird because like if it's just a normal person, we will not know what would have happened. But because you have a position of not power, but like quote
Privilege,
unquote power,
privilege.
yeah, because you're a well-known person in the area or the yeah in the area. Um, they'll let stuff slide a little bit more easier. As this was a not something that he was arrested for because of something, but because he was fitting a description or was in an area that a recent incident happened, and they're questioning him. But it does see that the police trying to do their job. They may have gone too far, probably did, but then letting him walk free with nothing afterwards once they find out. You see that a lot in every single type of job.
Yeah,
If that's what we're discussing about how
yeah.
sometimes these people just kind of go off afterwards and
Hmm. And it's like these two were just or in Moore's defense, he's just minding their own business and they're gonna go eat in this
yeah.
half. And then they dropped Coach O's name, and I think that's what like let the cop know like, oh, they're players. You kind of not mess with them or not. I don't know how to like actually word this. But
Yeah, it's kind of weird because we're not trying to say like, oh, the police were abusing them, which, as you said, they probably are. But once you kind of throw that name of power, that privilege of saying I'm a football player,
Mhm.
we could get you fired easier.
Yeah, yeah. One question: what is your opinion on quotas?
What was that?
What is your opinion on quotas, like police quotas?
They are made up things that people say about. There is what I learned. There's no such thing as a quota, but they have numbers that they may want to shoot for.
Hmm.
But there was no quotas that is filed like, oh, I need to hit 500 tickets in a month.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, we would like you to keep an eye out just so they won't let stuff slide. Like, oh, someone's going 80 in like a 55 zone.
Hmm.
I was like, I'll let that slide. Like, oh no, like I gotta like reach a imaginary goal
Hmm.
and make sure that the streets are safe or whatever.
Hmm. I think personally, I feel like this was like trying to reach that quota. Um, not read, but I've watched like a couple of videos talking about quotas and how they're fake and how they're more oppressive to the hell is the word minority groups just because it's easier to tag them with certain things that you wouldn't be
Yeah.
with the majority groups. So I agree with you 100% that I feel like quotas are a made up thing. And do you think that it should be in police departments as a whole? Like, do you think they should be hitting quotas, or should they just?
No, they should not be hitting quotas. That should be some imaginary goal that they should reach for. They should know what to look for and stuff. Like quotas should only be used in like marketing jobs when you're trying to sell a number or whatever.
Good
At
point.
least that's my take.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think we both share similar opinions on quotas. So I'm grateful that these, well, more. We didn't really that much on Traeshon Holden, but I'm grateful that these two are in good health and also didn't, weren't a part of something that could have been blown out of proportion on the police side. Um, so let's move on to some NCAA basketball. Some of the early picks are in for um, March Madness. I'll just look at this bracket right here. So
Already?
exactly what I said. 2021 March Madness top four or final four are picks are in. Number one, Gonzaga University. I'm not sure where Baylor, Villanova, and Illinois lie, but Baylor and Villanova and Illinois are in the top four as well. Villanova being one of the greatest, probably one of the greatest schools on the East Coast aside from Duke, North Carolina, not Clemson, Syracuse. A lot of the East Coast schools are great as well. Um, I not entirely sure on your perspective on this, but what do you think of this top four, this predetermined top four for March Madness next year?
I see some good schools, like at least well-known schools. But for me, I'm not a big college basketball person, so I don't really know. But they do have some of the schools that are relatively are always in the finals or within like this Sweet 16 at least.
Mhm.
Did you also hear that they are thinking of putting the March Madness solely in Indiana this year
Why
or next year?
like the actual championship game or just the entire
Yeah, like Indianapolis, like the whole
the whole tournament?
the whole tournament
That's crazy. Why are they doing? Why would they do that?
to limit travel for schools and limit the COVID
Yeah, that makes sense.
19. Like I know it's something we talked about doing like bubbles. I think that'll probably work because that is actually a tournament. You know where you're going to be. It's not like, oh, we have all these schools. Like no, usually during this tournament, people are traveling like San Diego, then
Mhm.
like New York, and like going to all these places.
Are they going to the Bay or they're going to?
Yeah, they're not like, oh, I'm doing a home game here and then home game there, away game or stuff like this. This is a tournament. Like you're here, you're playing.
Yeah. So by this list here, like Virginia was in part of the talks of it, Kentucky, Houston, Oregon. So I think a lot of these schools, both East and West Coast, as well as the other two time zones with between Mountain and Central time zone, would benefit from a bubble type situation of March Madness. I'm just kind of curious on why they would choose Wisconsin and probably not a state like, I don't know what's a not very populated state, North and South Dakota, like to travel between.
It's probably because there's a rich history of basketball in the area. I think that's where they typically host tournaments a lot. I think that was also might be in the area that they were going to host the Final Four.
Oh, for
So
this coming year, I see.
yeah,
Oh, that makes sense then. Um, I understand why you wouldn't want to put it in Illinois or Chicago, um, or I don't know on the West Coast as well as Baylor. And personally, I feel like Texas would be a much greater place, but it would be hard because there's a lot more stadium type of arenas there. But I think Wisconsin is a good spot, mostly because of the easy connectivity between the states around it, as well as easy fly-ins for other states on the different coast. For me, looking at this list of Gonzaga, Baylor, Illinois, and Villanova, I personally think it would be Villanova and what was the other one? What the hell? And Zaga. I assume I 100% agree with that. Both,
I won't fight you, but I also don't know too much.
yeah, like 100%. Like two good basketball programs in the collegiate level. For Illinois and Baylor, I mean Baylor had a good run last year, but I don't know how many seniors they've lost or how many upperclassmen they've lost due to the draft. But or due to the upcoming draft and probably to the pro leagues as well. I think I'm gonna have to say I can't say Duke. Um, it's hard like that. Just selecting two other schools just between every single program is hard. But I think Kentucky maybe one. Not entirely sure of their position player wise. Kentucky maybe one, and then I can't believe I'm saying this. I think Syracuse maybe in the ACC. Not sure where they'll fall in the rankings, but I feel like those four may be a good Final Four. Not entirely sure, but right now the predictions are set very, very, very early to March Madness. Kris, anything else?
I agree or I disagree. I don't know. We'll find out.
Well, let's move
As
on.
I said, like I'm not too much into basketball or collegiate basketball, but let's move on to NFL.
Yeah, some NFL news.
NFL.
We've had some good games yesterday, Sunday as well as Thursday. The Colts started it off against the Titans, and they actually beat the Titans, very surprisingly. Let's start off with that game. 34-17 win, nearly a double score with the Titans. Did you watch that? Did you watch that game?
I watched a good majority of the game. I was surprised. Like I think we both kind of agree with the Titans in that game. But as you said, like well, at least I said, if the Colts can bottle up on Derrick Henry, which I believe they did pretty well on that, that they'll be able to win the game. And there we go. They won. That defense right there on the Colts.
Surprising, actually.
I don't say surprising. They've actually been relatively good, but it was kind of surprising to bottle up Derrick Henry that well.
Mm-hmm. Well, the next couple of games are Texans versus Browns. Without an Odell Beckham Jr., the Browns won 10-7.
Yeah, they're switching back to a one heavy team, getting back Nick Chubb.
Mm-hmm. And then the Chargers versus Dolphins. We were split on that decision. Were we split on that decision?
We were. I went Chargers. You went Dolphins.
Oh, that's right. And then Seattle versus the Rams. We were definitely split on that decision.
Yep.
Bills versus Cardinals. Bills, their second loss.
Third loss, I believe.
Third loss. Again,
yeah, that was just off of like a last second miracle play.
That was a definite miracle play. We'll talk about that. And then the Ravens versus the Patriots. Number one, what did you see quarterback wise between the Chargers and the Dolphins?
Did not have that game on TV, so I didn't get to see that game.
I saw Tua. I saw Tua. I saw Tua throw a lot of good balls. Justin Herbert, that doesn't go away. He does have a cannon of an arm. When it comes to overall start time, I think Tua still holds that a little bit of IQ over Justin. Not entirely sure on the defensive side, but the offensive side was really good for that game. How about the Rams versus Seattle? Do you actually expect that, or do you actually expect Seattle to win?
That was kind of a surprise for me.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Russell Wilson was going to really show apart their kind of show the weaknesses in that really good LA defense, but throwing 2 picks in that game, he did show some flaws. But people are discussing that this could be the same thing what happened to the Chiefs a couple seasons ago, when they had like the number 1 rated offense and one of the worst rated defenses, and they just missed out on going to the Super Bowl because of that. And then the next year they hire a new defensive coordinator and do
you think
change some of the pieces and were able to win a championship.
Do you think it's premature fatigue from how fast they've started in the beginning of the season?
No, I don't think so. I think Russell Wilson still is a great quarterback, but the defense is not as great as they were back in the early 2010s.
That's true. That's true.
They've really taken a step back. They really focus more on the offensive side.
Mm-hmm.
But the defense being ranked 32 in the league and the offense ranked 32 over this 9-game stretch does show that the offense is one of the best out there, but the defense is what keeps them in. Well, not keeps them in games. Well, keeps the opponent in games.
Yeah, it was really interesting just to watch the highlights. I mean, they were really crowding Russell. I mean, I think it wasn't Aaron Donald. Who was the other? It was the other tight end getting to him a lot throughout the game. But Russ did throw picks. He was also on his feet a lot, not able to get the ball in the air as much. Um, but yeah, I think Rams defense did overcome this great Seattle offense. How about that last play with the Cardinals versus the Bills? DeAndre Hopkins.
As what he tweeted out, he mossed them or
Oh,
he dunked them. That's
3 of them.
yeah. It was a spectacular catch. I don't think Kyler Murray could ever throw another thing like that, or Dino could ever catch something like that. That's like a 1 in a million plays. Throw that 10 more times, you'll probably see incompletions.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just a great miracle throw, perfectly placed.
Mm-hmm. It's like an Aaron Rodgers level of luck that he had.
Aaron Rodgers' level of luck is what he calls skills.
That's true.
Everyone else thinks like, oh man, that was such an Aaron Rodgers throw. Like Aaron Rodgers, like
I do this on
that's Tuesday.
Yeah. Ravens versus Pats. I don't know. I think division rival, right? Division rival.
Conference rival. They're not division rivals.
Conference rival. Young quarterback, old wise head coach.
Former Heisman, former MVPs.
Yeah. Did you watch this game? I actually didn't watch the night game.
I did watch this game.
What did the Pats do so well to contain Lamar?
Weather,
really?
Yeah, it was a storm coming from the Cleveland game that really made them focus more on a ground game. And the Patriots were able to throw a lot more plays. I think Cam Newton was settled in really well. Lamar Jackson did nothing really wrong. Like they were able to throw plays. A few botched snaps here or there caused them to, and a few bad flags caused them to get pushed back after a gain. So that kind of caused them a downfall.
So nothing on. It was just a real bad weather situation for the Ravens, even though they came up from Baltimore. You hear me?
Well, yeah.
What I said was it was just a bad weather situation. Is what I mean.
Yeah, that's what I take because one of the last few plays, the center snapped the ball, did not go more than like 2 inches off the ground.
Oh, sheesh.
So you can see like he didn't have a good grip because of the rain and all that stuff.
Well, that will do it. I mean, that New England weather is unpredictable sometimes. It could be raining,
Yeah, we're coming into the rain season now up there, and possible snow. I think we're seeing snow over in Chicago right now.
Am I ready? That's super early.
It is halfway through November.
Yeah, but we don't usually see it like until like right as December starts. Well, I wouldn't know because
neither of us are from states that snow. Technically, I am from a state that snows, but that's just Tahoe. That's like 5 hours away from me.
Yeah, that's true. So the New Orleans Saints, as you mentioned, Drew Brees is out with fractured ribs, but last week, after the decimation of Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, they are looking at some significant penalties after.
Really? Go on. I'm just going to be randomly saying words.
Because none of them were wearing masks during their locker room celebration.
That's why. I thought you were just because they were dancing and having fun.
The No Fun League. That's what we call the NFL, right?
That's what the name is.
Yeah, that's
the nickname is the National Football League.
$500,000, just like the Raiders and Gruden were fined for not wearing masks on the sidelines. Do you think this was needed, or do you think like?
Yeah, and these times, 2020 times, they should be facing these kind of discipline. We know the league is trying to stay afloat and not miss a single game. So they're trying to take this COVID stuff like, hey, if you have COVID, we're throwing you out. We're still going to play. So they don't want to have a whole team and just mess up the whole schedule and the whole operations.
Yeah.
I thought when I read this and you were talking about it, I thought they were just because of all the dancing and like celebrating after a game. Like, seriously? Like, because some players posted this on their social media accounts. But because they're not wearing masks, I could see this is totally deserved. I don't know about you.
It's also that. I mean, why the hell are you going to go on Instagram Live and show the league that you're do not have any mask on in the locker room?
Do you remember? This was a few seasons ago. I think this is someone was going on live, and then in the locker room, and one of the offensive linemen dropped his towel in his locker,
Yeah,
and you can
I
see
remember.
his.
I think it was the Texans. Was it the Texans?
I can't remember. We can say the Texans. Let's go with the Texans for now. But
I'll look for it.
and then Antonio Brown live casting hit the locker room speech.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And just like really, like I thought the locker room was supposed to be private. We just talked about the Jets last week being mad at the league that at least the Jets organization having cameras in there, and then like other teams like, oh, let's go, IG Live, baby.
All right, so it was the Bears, not the Texans.
Okay.
Offensive lineman for the Bears. I think I couldn't get a good look at who was the actual the player on live, but like it's in his locker, and like he has like a little gap between him and the player that like just walked in with his towel, drops it butt ass naked, which was a little bad.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think yes, it is needed, but I don't know about a $500,000 fine for the team. I mean,
Yeah,
if
it's
there's
a lot of money, but that is what the going rate is for fines. I think they've got fines already earlier this year for Sean Payton not wearing his max on the sidelines. So I think you just up the charges from there.
as well as Mike Tomlin and Gruden. I
Yeah,
mean,
Gruden. Well, the Raiders have been now up to $500 fine plus losing draft picks. So
yeah.
hopefully they understand and not lose the whole draft next year.
hmm Speaking of draft, in the NBA,
Yeah, let's move on to some NBA draft news.
LaMelo Ball has worked out for the Warriors, the Hornets, and Pistons. I think this is coming into fruition that the Pistons do want LaMelo Ball. If the Warriors decide to pick him with the second pick, do you think that they'll trade him to the Pistons, or do you think they'll keep him to build him for a year? What do you think they're going to do?
I don't know. I can see the Warriors do trading away the pick or whoever they draft that pick position, which could be Lamelo Ball, to grab more assets or even a higher star player. I don't know who Pistons have that the Warriors would like, but that is totally an option right there. I did read that the Warriors are more interested in Lamelo Ball now than James Wiseman after their walkout.
Yeah. hmm I think it's because he's number one, a great facilitator. I was talking to former guest, Dr. Sean Pradhan, and we were talking about the NBA draft. And he said he wouldn't like to see LaMelo on the Warriors only because he doesn't play defense. And I'm like, well, if you think about it, the rest of the league doesn't play defense until All Star Week, and then they start picking it up and start making that contention push for the finals. So
Yeah, I don't think a handful of teams actually like care about defense all 73 games, and the Warriors are one
82, not
and 82.
yeah.
Okay.
Warrior.
Uh,
The Warriors are one. I mean, they're an
I
offensive machine. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead. Like I'm trying to think of other clubs that focus a little bit more on defense than others.
Oh, the Utah Jazz with Rudy Gobert.
There we go. That's the other team, and I want to say San Antonio.
Mm, it depends. I mean,
They were for a while. They were heavy on
yeah,
the defense.
that was with the big three that they had.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I'm thinking of them.
You can kind of give it to Kristaps, just him as a player, not New York when he played with them. I think Dallas is coming into contention as a defensive team, but they do score a lot. Um, I mean, with how many defensive, not requirements, but former defensive player of the year nominees on the Lakers, I mean, you would think they would care about the defense a lot. Oh, New Orleans. New Orleans is a great defensive team, mostly
Yes.
Drew Holiday. Lonzo also great defensive player, but sneaky and elusive. But a great defensive, great big body team down there in New Orleans. For me, I would actually love to see him go to the Lakers. Not Lakers, Warriors.
Warriors.
Yeah. And mostly because of his facilitating aspect of him. I mean, he can always go to the rim. Clay will always be in the corner no matter what, moving up and down the sideline. And then Curry will just be Curry. They'll just be roaming around, trying to find the opening, and then
Yeah.
it's an easy dump to either one of them.
So I have opened up Bleacher Report's final 2020 NBA mock draft. This does not account with trades, I don't think. No,
Trades.
they don't have any. Let's see. Almost every team picking within the top 10 have some degree of trade conversation, but they're expecting this is without any trades. So they're predicting Minnesota Timberwolves select Anthony Edwards. I'm just going to list the top 3. So Edwards out of Georgia, shooting guard. He's a freshman. Warriors selecting James Wiseman out of Memphis, center. And then Charlotte Hornets selecting LaMelo Ball, point guard.
I don't know. I don't know if Charlotte would select him because Russ wants to go there as well. I'm not
Yes, well, this is not including any trades.
Oh,
this
okay.
is just right now. But yeah, we do see a lot of trades because the Pistons are a team that really wants him.
Speaking of trades or potential trades, Kendrick Perkins, former big man for the Celtics and the Oklahoma City Thunder, said James Harden could be the potential 3 for the Brooklyn Nets. And we talked about this last week. If that were to happen and James Harden were to go to the East, play with Kyrie and KD, and it were to come down to, I mean, we just had a big trade today, but if it were to come down to between the Lakers of the West and the Brooklyn of the East, who do you think you're picking for NBA Finals champion if that were to come down?
Come down to those teams, I think the Lakers. If we do, because there is now talks of Harden going there, he's open to that kind of trade. After a week ago, he said, "I don't want to be traded from this team." But now the reports that he's
open,
wants to be a contender to someone else. So that could happen, but I think the Lakers will be a better team. I don't think they have too much drama in that locker room.
That's true. Well, as we've been alluding to, one of the biggest news that dropped today because free agency just opened, Chris Paul is now a Phoenix Sun.
Yeah, this is surprising. Like, we knew that he was going to be traded. Like, we talked about this a lot on this show. But
I didn't.
No, none of us predicted the Suns. We thought Booker was actually going to leave, but
they got rid of Kelly Oubre, Ricky Rubio, one more player, and I think a 2022 draft pick.
Yeah, they got rid of a lot.
Wow.
Who is?
The Suns got Chris Paul, and I don't remember who the second player was.
Yeah, I'm opening up the article right now, so I'll let you talk your take, and I'll get that one player.
Yeah. When I first saw this on Instagram, one of the captions was, "Who won this trade?" Personally, I think the Thunder won this trade. Reason being, you got rid of Kelly Oubre for no reason. I think Kelly Oubre is a great piece for Phoenix. Not sure how he would have incorporated between Booker and Chris Paul, but I think the Thunder won this trade. I think the Phoenix Suns need a third person, just like every other team needs a third all-star. Not even third all-star. They just need a third person that can produce. And I think Kelly Oubre would have been that third person. I'm not entirely sure how Chris Paul will favor with Devin Booker being that quote-unquote leader within the Suns for the last couple of years. But I think hopefully it will work well. There were reports that I actually saw that Chris Paul wanted to go back to the Clippers and play with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. That was probably the most overrated thing I've seen because I don't think Chris Paul would have wanted to go back to the Oh, hello. There he is. There you are. Yeah, I don't think Chris Paul would have wanted to go back to the Clippers and play with that organization again. Chris, you got that second name?
There's nobody. It just says Chris Paul to Phoenix for Ricky Rubio, Kelly Oubre, Ty Jerome, Jalen
Q.
The Q, and draft conversations.
Ooh.
So I think it's just Chris Paul was sent there and all of his money.
Let me check on Instagram. And then the next trade announcement was announced this past Saturday, I believe, is when I got this news. Dennis Schroeder, former guard of the Oklahoma City Thunder. So Oklahoma City Thunder is kind of selling out right now.
Yeah.
They are sending him to the Lakers, trading him to the Lakers, and there should be or either they haven't signed him and he's a free agent, or so on and so forth. He will be signing with the LA Lakers this coming year. Okay, I found it. So Chris Paul and Abdel Nadar have been traded to the Suns. Kelly Oubre, Ricky Rubio, Ty Jerome, and Jalen Lecque, as well as 2022 first round pick to the OKC Thunder. So OKC Thunder is throwing and tanking for next year or 2 years from now, whatever their decisions are. They got rid of their shooting guard as well as their point guard for the year. The Lakers are trading Danny Green to Oklahoma City Thunder though, which doesn't give them enough to acquire DeMar DeRozan, who is our last trade rumor that we've been talking about. But I think this is per report on ESPN. I don't think it's by Woj though. The Lakers are still interested in DeMar DeRozan, and they're looking to just send Kyle Kuzma, maybe one more player and a couple of draft picks. I'm not entirely sure what their intentions are. But Chris, what are some of your opinions on all three of these trade rumors or trades that have happened?
As we talked about with the Chris Paul thing, this could be the last piece that they need to get a playoff appearance, which they haven't had in a long time. But this does cost a lot of money and cost them a lot of players. So as I kind of agree with you, long run, I think OKC won that trade, unless somehow Phoenix wins the championship in the next couple of years.
I doubt it.
And then this trade rumor that we're talking about, DeMar DeRozan, there was a report saying that he was honored to have these talks. He felt like, oh wow, my home team wants, or at least his hometown wants him back.
Yeah.
And he's open to that idea, but only time will tell. And we could probably see the Spurs as he was not playing well, to try to get some type of value for him, and look to rebuild and bring back that dynasty they once had.
I don't know how you're gonna rebuild around him, but okay, I agree with that.
Rebuild about what?
DeMar.
No, the trade DeMar and get pieces to
I see.
build up and.
Well, the other rumor was Portland was trying to get LaMarcus Aldridge, who they traded to the Spurs, and now they're trying to get him back. So it's like, I don't know how the Spurs are going to come back. Maybe like 5 years from now without Pop, but
I can't think of a team without Pop.
It's coming soon. It's coming soon.
Like, he's going to die on the court.
No, don't say that.
Not saying like he's going to die mid-game. I'm talking about he's just going to be laying there like, it's my time, and just disappears.
Just like runs.
like in the movies, like he just sits down in his coaching chair and just whoosh, vanishes.
You talking about Star Wars where he just vanishes into a Force ghost?
I was not thinking Star Wars. I was trying to think of a different movie. I can't think of the one off the top of my head.
I know. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Last one, not knowing if you know Dennis Schroeder.
I didn't really hear too much on that trade, but talks of him going to LA, right?
Yes.
So yeah, LA is looking for another piece. They are losing quite a few numbers from that championship team this year, because they're all 1-year deals. So we don't know if they'll be able to get all these players back. But if they could get some people that are younger and equally as value, maybe even cheaper, that's how you do to keep, because they are trying to re-sign Anthony Davis for a long-term deal, so they have to worry about that cap space.
So this is what is going to go down. Dennis Schroeder is headed to LA in exchange for 28th pick of this year's draft, the 2021 draft or 2020 draft, and likely Danny Green. So after the Lakers make their pick, they'll trade for Dennis Schroeder to go for that pick to go to Oklahoma City Thunder. I think it's a smart move. I mean, they're just saving up cap space.
Saving cap space. I know it's like, oh, you're getting a first round pick, but late 20s, you don't really know what you're getting from those players. Yeah. It's a lot of hit or misses up there.
Yeah.
So you rather get a proven player or two.
And it better be like a year
your roster.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, a lot of trade news, a lot of draft news. I mean, this is the week of the NBA draft. I mean, first, I'm going to be live streaming the NBA draft on Twitch this Sunday at
Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday. I'm not entirely sure what time it is though.
Would that link be down on description below?
will be down in the description below. Please join me on Wednesday. Go in the chat, show some love, and then I will also be posting not the entire thing, but cuts and bits of each pick on YouTube on my personal channel.
And that channel is so our fans could find you out there.
It's just my name right now.
All right. Again, that link will also be down in the description below.
Yep.
So show Micah some love.
Yep.
He's
show Kris's personal channel some love as well.
Oh, thanks.
At IMJR.
Yep, just like the my name on our show right here, without the thing that this is my IG handle.
And then our last news is $1 billion now Mets owner Steve Cohen has made a very distinct timeline.
This is a bold prediction of him. Steve Cohen just
world champions. Kris, take us through it.
Oh yeah, so Steve Cohen, we talked about a couple weeks ago that he just finalized the deal to purchase the Mets. So after he finalized all that, signed on the paperwork, yada yada, he let go of the entire front office and is rebuilding that whole thing, bringing a winning or is trying to bring a winning culture into that organization, and looking forward. Like he made this bold thing on his press conference, I think, say that he's looking to win a World Series within the next 5 years for the New York Mets. It's a tough challenge. He might have enough money to fill out a roster and practically buy a team. But this is a really bold statement. You do have a lot of great teams out there in the league, which he's in the National League, so he has to compete with the always abundant farm system of LA, which always has like some type of rookie of the year MVP coming out of it. You have the Braves, which are relatively young. Yes, Micah.
I don't know if they can do this. I don't know if it's legal or not, but can owners put their own money into the organization?
That's practically it. That's what they do.
Oh, really? I thought it was organization money versus their money.
No, it's whatever money you get and whatever money you want to spend.
So what, $2 billion and they can sign anyone? I mean,
theoretically, there is a soft cap in MLB.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a very soft cap. It's relatively like no one really cares about it until like your team is over it for 5+ years. Then it starts taking effect a lot more harder. But I'll say it right now. So MLB does have a soft cap. If you go over it, there's a small fine. After so many years, it doubles and doubles, so it becomes a big problem where teams then afterwards, as we saw with the Boston Red Sox, this is a big reason why they let go of Mickey Betts, was to get back underneath the cap, have it reset, so they could then go again over the cap and spend money on players.
Do you agree with his statement that the Mets will be a world champion team in 5 years?
I do not agree, but I would love to see it happen.
I would love to see it happen too.
I really want to see what happens at New York Mets team. I really love some of the players that have come out of that system, pretty much out of the system, out of that club, with notable stars, David Wright, Noah Syndergaard. I'm forgetting the other pitcher's name.
You mentioned it like 2 weeks ago. I don't.
Yeah, Syndergaard and somebody else.
Syndergaard.
Jacob deGrom. There we go.
Yeah. This is like kind of perfect, like going from NBA news to MLB news, because then I'll take over NBA and then you can take over MLB. It's kind of like cohesion.
Yeah, this is like Micah's big NBA guy, Kris, big MLB guy.
We're both like football guys, and we can kind of talk about it, like not in depth, but interesting to see Steve Cohen's timeline. I mean, I'm not entirely sure who they're going to sign in the next 4 years. Before the 5th year, they try to be a world-class organization and world champion. But I'm here for it. I can't wait to see a New York team actually win something.
So Thursday, we're supposed to do a full-on baseball podcast with a bunch of our friends and former guests.
Yep.
We do have this one question that we're going to talk and like have you as our listeners or watchers also get into board. So our big question is, who's going to be the next Derek Jeter?
Who can be the next captain? Not even like not in New York.
Not of the Yankees, but like of the MLB. Who's going to be that biggest face?
Mm-hmm.
This is a question we're going to ask our friends and our guests on Thursday, but we want to hear pretty much what you have to say.
Kris, who just name one player that you think who can be the next
Mike Trout.
Ooh.
It's an easy question. He is the greatest player I've ever seen in my lifetime.
In our generation, yeah.
Yeah. I've seen some great players. I watched Barry Bonds live, and he was phenomenal. I did see a couple of Derek Jeter games.
Mm-hmm.
Saw a bunch of other players, but whenever Mike Trout comes to the Bay, it's one of the games I want to go see just to see him.
Just to see him. I remember it was the series for the Giants, and the Yankees were playing them in that 3-game series 2 years ago in April. I think Chapman was pitching that night. When I tell you that is the fastest fucking fastball I've ever seen in my life, I mean it. I mean it. That fucker, even though he can't control certain balls or certain pitches, that is the fastest ball I've ever seen thrown by a pitcher. I think I'm gonna have to go with the kid across the street in downtown LA. CB.
Oh, Bellinger.
I think his swinging alone, I don't pay too much of his fielding, but his swinging alone is very consistent. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
It may not be the level of Mike Trout, but his batting and his batting alone is very consistent.
2019 MVP right there. So,
Mm-hmm.
Wait, was he the MVP? Or was it? Yeah, he was the MVP.
Mm-hmm.
It was between him and Yelich.
I think another question is how many MVPs has Mike Trout been snubbed over?
Every single one in his career.
I felt
other than the ones he won. He's always if he's having an off year, he's number 5. But he's not outside the top 5 in MVP votes.
No. I feel like he should be second
every year.
If not,
he is.
Yeah. But you went with Mike Trout, I went with Cody Bellinger, two LA players right now being the next Derek Jeter. I feel like I don't know many players that are good on defense that could be the next Derek Jeter.
Yeah,
as a non-baseball watcher.
Yeah, there's quite a few names out there that could potentially be that. We were seeing some great young studs coming out. I'm just gonna name a couple. Juan Soto.
That's right.
Fernando Tatis.
Ooh, young boys. Okay.
So these guys could be these next big names in the league and be the ones that kind of pioneer the city to be the city of baseball.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's
true. But as we're going to probably have another discussion on Thursday about this, so we're going to find out some other names that you didn't even think about.
Have you ever tried to do the Jeter as a shortstop? Backhand, grab the ball, turn to first base?
Yeah.
It's hard, but it's fun. Usually,
I can pretty much get it. I grew up playing those two positions, so shortstop and second. That was my favorite positions in Little League. I played
the dumpster position, right field,
left field.
Oh,
that was my end of my career was there. But beginning when I was actually oh yeah, I'm in this. Let's go. Put me in those positions.
I remember
every defensive player.
The last time I played baseball, quote unquote, was mountain ball for my dad's squadron league. I was in the outfield. There's 4 instead of 3. So how do you tell between left and right field? Is it from home plate out or is it from?
Yeah, home plate out. So once you're looking at home plate, left field.
Yeah, I was center left. I was center left.
Okay.
Ball was hit super deep. So it was me and then already left field. So I'm running. I will never forget my dad's reaction. I'm running. I just stick my glove out and I follow through with the ball and I catch it. And my dad just starts screaming because I made the catch. I don't play baseball, so that was the most surprising thing. But another thing was I also hit a good double to actually kind of win the game.
Nice. Yeah, that was my downfall in Little League is I could not hit.
Oh yeah, I can't hit I can't hit fast pitch. I can hit softball. I can't hit fast pitch.
Yeah. Well, anything else? Let's see. Any big news coming out through this podcast? Oh, we forgot to talk about at least give our predictions for tonight's Monday Night Football.
Who's playing?
I'm loading it up right now. Vikings and Bears.
Bears.
Vikings are favored. So Bears easy to talk. Ooh, wow, that's a lot of questionable. Man, I'm looking on like the injury report list.
Mhm.
I'm kind of leaning to the Vikings.
You know why I say Bears?
No, I do not.
2018. No. Yeah, 2018.
2018. Please
Same
jog my memory.
Vikings.
That's right. I was thinking Bears or some odd reason. That seems like
Nope.
2018 Bears. Like, there's
No.
nothing.
No, that
Gotcha. I got you.
That's what
The Minnesota Miracle.
Minnesota Miracle is what happened. They shouldn't have made it. Okay.
Okay.
Guys,
Before Micah goes on this rant, thank you guys for jumping on and watching our show. We really appreciate all these views and likes you guys give us. Again, please hit that subscribe button, bell notification so you don't miss any videos that we drop. Drop down a comment with an article you like or a discussion you want us to talk about in a future episode. Micah, sign us off.
As well as like this video and share this video. I think that is probably one of the most important aside from subscribing. With that being said, guys, see you guys next time.
Peace.
You are watching a master at work.